All right, bro. As you can see that the title of this video is the model onboarding call, okay? Now, this is probably gonna be one of the most important parts of the entire process. If you get this right, you've essentially started the business on a very, very strong foot. Now, King's gonna go through a whole lot more information later in the video, and essentially, we've been able to get this kind of information from spending thousands and thousands of dollars on courses from all sorts of people in the OFM space, right? Now, because we've spent that money, it then means that you don't have to, right? Now, because we had information like this, we've then been able to apply it and get to exactly where we are. Now, another thing as well is we didn't get this information overnight, right? It's taken us around about 2 years to get access to this information. Now, you watching this video cuts that 2 years in half, probably even more, because after you see everything that King's about to go through, and if you take it all down and if you apply it, you'll be able to move miles ahead of the game. So grab a pen and a paper, start writing, and let's get started.
Okay guys, well, this is actually our first super informative video, and you're probably thinking, fuck me, these guys are dressed the same. But I promise you, I literally just walked out. I saw him fucking sat there, dressed the same as me. I was like, you know what, fuck it. It's nighttime, let's just carry on with it. All right, so Sam said it is pretty much going to be the most important thing in your OFM journey to pick the right model, and it's quite literally true. Especially if you're going to do percentages, especially if you're going to work all those hours, working on a project, can you really afford any time to not have some, the most basic thing not right? Okay? So when you pick your model, the first thing you need to do is get your attitude right, okay? I know outreach is hard. I know you're sending so many fucking DMs because I've done it too. Sam's done it too in their earlier journeys, okay? And you finally scrolling, and one replies back and says, yo, yeah, I can do the G Meet with you. Or I can do the call. Or, you know, I've had so many agencies, but I'll give you a shot, okay? You get all excited, you get dressed, right? You put on your favorite shirt, you make sure the background is good, you jump on the call. But you have the mindset at that point that just because that one model finally replied to you after fucking days of outreach, that, you know what, it's so easy to fall into the category of, I'm just gonna sign her anyway, okay? But that's not the case, okay? There's bad agencies, but there's bad models too. And like I said, it saved us so many hours of our fucking time and hard work and all the money, just so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that we do. So I'm just gonna go through it in detail, okay? So the first step is make sure your attitude is right. Your attitude should be, I'm only gonna sign this model if she aligns with my agency, my values, if I can actually work with her, and if the vibe is actually correct or something, okay? So that's the first step, all right? So the next thing is you wanna see what she's like when you actually join the G Meet with her, okay? So let's imagine this scenario, right? You're waiting for her, you've sent her the link, okay? We're ready at this time, 8 p.m. Let's get going, okay? Let's say it's 8:05 now, she's late, you don't hear from her. 8:10, you don't hear from her, right? You hear from her 2 hours later, oh, sorry, forgot about it. You know, look, can we just do it tomorrow? That's basically an insight into the future of what's gonna happen, all right? So the early signs that she's gonna be a good model is she shows up on time, she messages you beforehand, and she arrives on time as well on the actual call, right? So as soon as you join, from that point, now we kind of moving into the vibe aspect, okay? Do not pretend to be someone who you're not as soon as the model jumps on, okay? Let her know that you would love to actually have a, person-to-person interaction. So if she can actually turn her camera on, and make sure you turn your camera on. I know a lot of guys in the space, who doesn't want to kind of show their face. So maybe you do want to get a business partner who would show their face, because it's very important. The model wants to know that she's not going to get scammed, and she wants to know that you are a real person, okay? So now both your cameras are on, you're going to see the vibe, and the first thing you should ask is, how are you, right? She's a person at the end of the day, okay? You don't need to be name, age, how long you've been doing OF, blah, blah, blah. Because now it's just kind of a interview. You sound like every other agency. it pretty much isn't gonna start things off on the right note, okay? So ask her how she is, right? Get to know her just like you're speaking to a normal person, okay? Like, yeah, tell me about yourself. What do you like to do, right? Before I actually want to get into like the OF calls, I prefer to actually vibe with the person. So I just want to know a little bit more about yourself. Like, what are your hobbies? What are your interests, right? How was your day today? What did you do, right? Oh, you had work? That's great. Like, what, in the end of the day, like, what made you actually want to go into OF, okay? At that point, you've kind of breaking down her barriers, and she's going to be a lot more open to actually conversate and communicate with you, because she doesn't feel like she's talking to a virtual pimp or anything like that, right? She's just talking to a normal human being, okay? So once you finally do that, then you can start moving on to kind of like the interview style questions, right? And this is where the red flags can be presented, okay? Just because you vibe with her, if she gets the next parts wrong, do not hire her as a model, okay? End of the day, yes, she brings a lot of value, but so are you. You bring fuck ton of value. You are pretty much telling her, yeah, I'm gonna scale you from like 1K or 5K to like 50 and 100. You're doing a lot of the work. It's a partnership, okay? So on these questions, you pretty much just need to ask, what brings you into OF? You know, what's her motivations behind her thing? Maybe she wants to help her parents out. Maybe she wants to, you know, get her dream life, buy a dream car. And if she says anything about, you know, oh, you know, I just want to do this short term just to kind of just get some quick money, that's pretty much like the point where you tell her, listen, I don't think this is going to work. I'm looking for like a long term. I normally work with all my models for like, you know, 1 year plus and so on. I want to build and grow with you, and that's what you need, okay? So anything short term, any reasons for her doing OF, and it's like for a short term gain, then that's a no-go, all right? That's the biggest red flag, okay? Then you need to ask her, like, okay, so what are you actually comfortable with doing, right, on OF? Because end of the day, it's not for everyone, right? If she says, look, I only just want to show just my face and that's it, then you need to pretty much just kind of understand, okay, if I'm going to market her, if I'm going to do the chatting, the sales, the scripts, that's not going to sell, right? She could be the most beautiful person in the world, but that, you know, that's not going to sell, all right? So another thing on beauty, I'd rather work with a model who has the best work ethic, right? She can provide content on time, compared to the one who's like insanely like supermodel beautiful, but she's got no work ethic, okay? So work ethic trumps everything. If she says to you, look, I can dedicate about like 4 or 5 hours of my time per day to OF, then you've hit the sweet spot. Even if she has a job, even if she has a part-time, she's a student and so on, whatever. If she says, no matter what, I want to be successful in this, so I will dedicate my time, boom, you found yourself the perfect model. Congrats, okay? Another thing I kind of want to touch on is the whole vibe has to be there throughout the whole conversation, okay? You need to be in a not flirty, sorry. That's just how I fucking do the G-meets, but you need to pretty much just kind of do it in like a funny, kind of interactive way of like a back and forth. I've been in so many calls with models where it's just like, you know, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, why do you want to do OF? I don't know. That's the sign to fucking end the call. Like, you don't need to waste your time on that, all right? The extra time it takes you, maybe it takes you an extra month of G-meets with different models to kind of finally find the vibe, but trust me, this is like a lifelong thing, right? I could have signed models that didn't have a vibe, but I felt like, you know, they probably could have done well or make the extra money. It might make you 1 to 5, maybe maximum 10K per month, but it's not gonna get you to the 50 and so on, right? You want a long-term relationship, okay? Another thing is, at the end of the call, you pretty much just wanna let her know that, you know, I've had a few interviews with like different models and so on, and I'm gonna take my time to actually think about this, right? Because this is like an interview style type of scenario where I'm not just gonna sign you. So I'll let you know in a few hours after I reassess everything, and I'll pretty much let you know if I wanna work with you, okay? She's gonna respect that, of course. If you just take her on straight away, it kind of looks desperate, right? End of the day, me and Sam, we said we're going to be super authentic, but you know, you also need to play the part of like being like psychology and, you know, the perfect ways to kind of lead, you know, be a good agency owner and so on. Even if you have no fucking models, you need to pretty much just say, look, I need to take my time, think about it, and I'll pretty much let you know. Okay, I'm gonna interview other models and so on, right? Another thing that is a kind of a big red flag is the overly involved model, right? You will have some of these where she will say, okay, yeah, I'll be in a partnership with you, but I want to pretty much see all the chats. I want to log in all the time. I want to check the notifications and so on. That's literally the biggest mistake I made in the very, very beginning of my whole kind of like OF journey. Okay, so my first model, I pretty much spoken to her every single day, non-stop. And it's like fucking mentally draining. Like you get drained, right? The only times you need to conversate with her is kind of like when you need the content done and like on a weekly basis where you do like a catch up of like, okay, so here's the numbers, you know, we're doing like this, I think this can improve and so on. But make it clear from the beginning that that's how you want the relationship to be like, okay? That end of the day, you want to be friends with her, but it's going to take trust, it's going to take time to build that relationship. But in the beginning, you want to kind of just make sure that you're only doing like checkups on like the OF account. She leaves you to do your job, you leave her to do her job. And that's pretty much like the only kind of relationship you need in the beginning. Okay, trust me, that will save you so much time. The overly involved model, I've seen like fucking destroy so many agency owners, right? Because at the end of the day, look, she might actually just want to talk to you every single day nonstop, and maybe she, you know, falls in love with you. I've seen that happen many times as well, which is fucking crazy. And you might fall in love with her and kind of lose sight of the whole, you know, agency thing. But hey, I'm not fucking judging. If you want to do that, do that. But I'm just letting you know this is the best way to get to 50K, 100K, and so on. Okay? So don't let it get too much involved. You pretty much just let her know, look, I've got a team that's going to handle this. I've got chatters that are going to do the sales. I'm going to let you know on the numbers. Everything's going to be a professional basis. Boom, boom, boom. I'll take care of it. You do your job. I'll do my job. Okay? And that's pretty much the end of that. Okay? So by the end of it, you need to pretty much know your own value as an agency owner. Okay? You need to know, like, look, I'm not just going to waste the next, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 months of my life just, you know, just taking on any other model. Okay? And also, I'm sick and tired of this, but you don't need to lie to the model and say, look, I'm already making 50K a month. In the first month, I'll make you 50K. Okay? Because, hey, look, your words have power. And by the first month, if you don't make that 50K, which is like a 99% chance of happening, like, you know, she's not going to trust you. She's going to leave and go to a different agency and so on. Okay, so just be yourself. Be like authentic. You don't need to lie about the numbers. You don't even need to speak about it. If she asks about the numbers, like, okay, what are like the models that you have kind of like on right now? You can just say, look, I'm not going to discuss numbers. I'm here to sell myself as a person. I feel like we'll work well together. And without a doubt, I'll rather let the results speak for itself. Okay? And if things doesn't work out, you can always walk away and I can always walk away. No problem. Okay? No hard feelings. But I want you to give this a chance in actually just changing your life. Okay? That will actually go so much further than the whole, you know, yeah, like, you know, first month I can make you 50K, no problem, blah, blah, blah. Because trust me, you're going to fucking eat those words by the end of the 30 days. Okay? And boom, you've broken all the trust. Okay? So be yourself. Show your personality. Don't make it like interview style. Actually, you know, get to know the model. Have set non-negotiables. For example, with ours, since we do a lot of TikTok lives and so on, right? We say, look, we want a model that's going to be willing to go live on TikTok for about 3 hours a day. Will that work for you? Okay? If she says, no, that's not going to work for me and so on, then boom, you know, she can't get past your non-negotiable, so she's not going to be your perfect model, so you can't sign her. Okay? A different one is like, you know, she says, oh, I can only dedicate time on the weekend. No go. All right? There's no fucking way she can generate enough content and so on. All right? Another one is like anything script related, sales related. If she says, look, I can't do certain things, and that's kind of like your non-negotiables, then obviously don't fucking sign her then, right? But all I'm saying is there is no secret to this, right? Just be yourself, have non-negotiables, and fucking have some respect for yourself too. Take the time. The right one is coming, I promise. I've been through it, Sam's been through it. I know so many agency owners have been through it, okay? So take your time, be authentic, treat it like just a normal conversation, but at the same time be professional in terms of like how you set things up, okay? By the end of the call, you should have a group chat set up and so on. And like after you've said that, you know, I'm willing to actually work with you, just give it a couple hours before you say that. And once she agrees, just pretty much get everything under control. During the call as well, obviously speak about the basics, which is less like percentage split or salary. Just always go percentage split. Either do a 60-40 or 50-50, okay? 60 to you is what I meant. But that's only because, you know, we're going to be doing a lot of the work and we are pretty much changing their lives. So at the end of the day, you deserve it too. You don't need to be scared on these calls. You don't need to be like, okay, like, you know, I don't think I deserve 50% or, you know, 60% or something. Like, you deserve it. You're going to do all the fucking work and you're learning on this journey non-stop, all right? So that's pretty much just the end of the video. Take notes of everything. I know it's kind of like, I was back and forth, but it's fucking nighttime. I want to go to sleep. Sam's staring at me behind the camera and that's it. But enjoy.